Hello and welcome to the History of Stargate. This week's episode, Todd the Wraith. Todd is a Wraith who the Atlantis expedition met several times. He first appeared in 2006, returning in years after. He is distinguished by a starburst-shaped tattoo centered around his left eye. He was named Todd by Lieutenant Colonel John Shepard after a guy he knew in college who was very pale. Before his capture, Todd was a Wraith of some political standing. After being freed, he is in loose command of about a dozen hive ships, out of at least 60 in the galaxy, and these have remained loyal to him during his imprisonment, implying that he used to command even more, most probably because he's at least 10,000 years old. He notes that his time spent in prison diminished his standing among the Wraith, further supporting the notion that he held a great deal of influence before. He is also an adept scientist, having a significant understanding of nanite coding as well as Wraith technology. Todd was born in the closing stages of the Lantean Wraith War, and took part in the final assault on the Atlantis some 10,000 years before the present time. After the Ancients' departure from the Pegasus, Todd eventually rose to the position of prominence among the Wraith, holding high-ranking functions within the Wraith Hive hierarchy. 2006. When first introduced, Todd, then unnamed, first appeared as prisoner of the Genii forces. As part of their plan to get the Atlantis expedition to turn over Landon Ranum, the current leader of the Genii, Koila threatened to have Todd periodically feed on, but not completely drain, John Shepard. He was allowed to feed on Shepard 3 times, only for several seconds to force Elizabeth Weird to give him Landon. Before Todd and Shepard conspired to escape from the Genii prison, Shepard had given Todd a new sense of hope. Working together, the two overpowered Koila's guards and escaped, only to be cornered as they neared the Stargate. In order to gain his strength to fight them off, Todd almost completely chained Shepard, leaving him barely alive but letting Todd easily escape the Genii soldiers approaching them. To repay Shepard for freeing him, he drained the Genii soldiers he overpowered and used their life force to regenerate Shepard, an action which he referred to as the gift of life. Dr. Rodney McKay even claimed that Shepard looked younger than he did before. Shepard, in return, left Todd on another planet to link up with his hive ship. Both he and Shepard agreed to honor their deal of letting the other go. Shepard warned Todd again that if they ever met again, they would be enemies. Todd suggested that it would be good for both their sakes if they never meet again. 2007. Todd returns a year later to forge an alliance with the Atlantis expedition against the Assyrians, with whom the Wraith are now at war, while also informing Atlantis of the Assyrians' new strategy of wiping out every human in the galaxy to deprive the Wraith of a food supply. Since the efforts of Atlantis personnel had rendered the Wraith's previous virus ineffective in shutting off the Arthurian Wraith attack command, he needs their help to adjust it, jokingly offering to secure their truce with a handshake. He was stranded on Atlantis after the hive ship which brought the virus is destroyed by another suspicious hive. He remains in custody on Atlantis for weeks, working with Rodney McKay on the nanite coding. He also agreed to help McKay in shutting down the nanites in Jenny Miller's body, but only after he was allowed to feed on Henry Wallace, who had infected Jenny. During his time on Atlantis, he hacked McKay's computer and took the macro for McKay Carter's intergalactic gate bridge, which was later stolen from him, allowing the Wraith to attack the Midway Station and Stargate Command. 2008. Todd secured his freedom when he convinced 7 Wraith hive ships to join the Daedalus and the Apollo, along with the travelers on an assault on the Assyrian homeworld. Todd used the battle as a distraction to steal several zero-point modules from the planet before it was destroyed, to power a massive Wraith cloning facility, which he wanted to use to create his own Wraith army, able to wipe out the rival Wraith factions. He was, however, betrayed and imprisoned by a rival hive, set to feed upon by a Wraith Queen, once he outlived his usefulness. Shepard's team found his damaged ship and freed Todd, and together they destroyed the facility by ramming it with the damaged hive ship. He escaped his hive on a dart separately from Shepard's team. Later it was discovered that Todd provided information to a Wraith faction, allowing them to attack the Midway space station and Stargate Command. implying that he conducted espionage on the expedition during his stay in Atlantis and that he was still alive. This is later confirmed when random outbreaks of the modified versions of the Wraith poisoning inoculation prompted Todd to arrange another collaboration to stop this threat to both races. When confronted with his apparent involvement to the Midway incident, Todd admits to stealing information from Dr. Rodney McKay's laptop, but insists that the Wraith who planned the Midway occupation stole the information from him in turn. Given the shock over their accusation that he had something to do with this, he was likely telling the truth. Some time after Dr. Jennifer Keller found a gene therapy within Michael's database that should eliminate the Wraith's need to feed on humans again, the expedition met Todd to discuss the major discovery. He told them that he saw the benefits of the endeavor, particularly since the recent plague meant the Wraith were taking a risk anytime they fed, in case they came across a plague survivor who would kill the Wraith if they fed on. In order to disseminate the therapy with the other hives in the Alliance, they would need to convince the leader, the primary queen. There was a slight problem to the plan. The primary would only meet with another queen, and Todd's queen was killed a year ago when his hive ship was destroyed. However, the primary did not know this. He then proposed a plan which teal'c, being a Wraithkin, could pose as a queen for the dealings. She agreed, and the two set off to meet the primary hive ship's queen. As soon as they were on board, the ship jumped into hyperspace, surprising Todd and teal'c. The primary met them soon after, but Todd killed her almost immediately and told teal'c to take the blame. After a brief confrontation with the hive's commander, teal'c was made the new queen. She then ordered the ship to drop out of hyperspace. Meanwhile, Todd's second-in-command and the Atlantis teams were pursuing them in Todd's own hive ship. They arrived at the last known position of Todd's tracking device, but teal'c had already moved to confront a rival hive at once at their feeding grounds. Todd recommended to teal'c that she should negotiate with the other hive, but instead she opened fire on them. She deployed darts to face the brunt of the enemy's fire, during which Todd remarked on how she is doing this intentionally to kill Wraiths on both sides. Lieutenant John Shepard and his team left Todd's hive in their puddle jumper, and they arrived at the battle through the Stargate quickly enough to destroy the enemy ship with drones on board and teal'c's hive, but were stunned and captured. teal'c came to their cell and explained the situation, but the hive's original commander overheard their conversation. He attacked teal'c in her quarters and was about to kill her when Todd intervened and killed the commander. Shortly after, she left the hive with the other team members on the jumper. Todd was left in command of the ship, and with teal'c giving him full authority, effectively led the Wraith Alliance. Sometime later, Todd's hive ship and his two Wraith cruisers rendezvoused with the teal'c so he could come aboard and work with Keller on his gene therapy drug. Meanwhile, the Atlantis expedition discovered the Lanteans' Janus secret lab in Atlantis. Dr. Rodney McKay and Dr. Daniel Jackson unknowingly activated a signal alerting the rogue Asgard faction, the Vanir, of their location. The Vanir then infiltrated Atlantis and kidnapped Daniel and Rodney with the intention of activating the Atero device, which destroys any Wraith ship going into hyperspace and makes active Stargates explode with the power of a dozen nuclear warheads. While Todd and Keller were working, his cruisers attempted to go into hyperspace and were disintegrated, leading Todd to assume that the Atlantis expedition had found and deliberately activated the device. Believing he was being betrayed, Todd hijacked the teal'c and set off to destroy the device. At the same time, the device destroyed both Atlantis Stargates and another gate near the Traveler settlement, the former being controlled by the Atlantis shield and the latter obliterating the settlement and killing 3,000 travelers, as well as destroying their Lantean warship. As a result of this, Katana was sent by Laren to Atlantis to find the cause of the explosion. Because Todd would probably destroy the lab with McKay and Jackson still on it, Lieutenant Colonel John Shepard and Dr. Radek Zelenka came on board Katana's ship in an effort to get there first and rescue them. Ronan, who was still on the ship, sabotaged the teal'c systems, delaying Todd. 3 Vanir spaceships, the hijacked teal'c and Katana's ship, confronted each other around the planet M6H987, where the device was. Ronan freed the teal'c's original crew and they storm the bridge, only to find that Todd had locked the teal'c into a collision course with the device. Soon after, Todd and his Wraith escaped the vessel in their Wraith scout ship. The Traveler ship opened a hyperspace window to save the teal'c and its helpless crew, then destroyed Genesis' lab and the Arturo device with its weapons. Todd was forced to work with the expedition once again when this hive ship appeared in orbit over M35117, where Atlantis was floating. He had stolen the experimental drug created by Dr. Jennifer Keller. It took away his ability to feed, but also gave him a cancer-like disease. The disease spread to his hive ship when in symbiosis with its crew during stasis. His warriors turned feral and tried to eat several humans, while the hive systems behaved erratically. Todd told the team that being fed on by the Eratus bug queen could reverse the effects of the disease, and that there was a planet 3 days' journey away inhabited by the insects. John Shepard rejected the suggestion because the ship was too damaged to make a hyperspace journey. After a short altercation between the two, Todd was imprisoned in a holding cell on the hive. Soon, though, the ship could no longer handle the strain and broke in half, with the team in the forward section, which began to fall towards M35117 surface, while McKay felt that they could use the maneuvering thrusters to slow the ship's descent. He didn't have enough knowledge of the Wraith systems to perform the necessary bypass. To fix this problem, Shepard approached Todd, who welcomed the possibility of death rather than suffer to death from the disease. Shepard offered a deal. If Todd landed the ship, Shepard would take him to the planet he sought to get his cure. With the help of McKay, Todd was successfully able to power the main thrusters and glided the ship to a crash landing on the ocean. Todd rescued everyone before the ship sank, and Shepard proposed to Woolsey that they keep their deal with Todd, seeing him as their best chance at ever beating the Wraith. Woolsey reluctantly agreed, and Shepard allowed Todd to leave through the Stargate to seek the cure. Before leaving, Todd promised to remember Shepard's actions. 2009. Sometime later, Todd contacted Atlantis, revealing that the Eratus bug treatment had worked, curing him of the disease and turning him back into a regular Wraith. However, Todd revealed that he had taken more ZPMs than he had previously let on from the Assyrians, and had set an underling to work on adapting a hive ship to run off of one of them. The underling had succeeded, creating the super hive, but then mutinied against Todd and threw him off the ship. Angered at his betrayal, Todd had called to warn Atlantis of the threat and the need to destroy this new hive ship before it could be completed. The teal'c was sent to check out the threat, with Todd on board, though the crew took no chances and removed his usual clothes to prevent another possible hijack. Todd's intel proved to be correct, but the superhive is too powerful for the teal'c and heads to Earth after getting the coordinates from an alternate reality. In order to help combat the superhive, Shepard decides to take Atlantis itself to Earth and approaches Todd for the location of more ZPMs to power the city. Todd is left amused by the fact that Shepard knows how to convince him to do what he wants. Later, after the superhive is destroyed in battle, Todd reminds Shepard that Earth is safe due to his warning and ZPMs, and asks what Shepard will do with him. Shepard remains silent to Todd's question. Thank you for watching the history of Todd the Wraith. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you can, and leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.